Welcome to SVG-TV News for Thursday, the 27th of September, 2018. I am Jennifer Richardson with the details. SVG remains under watch for Tropical Storm Kirk today as it passes over the islands. Schools were closed today. However, the Ministry of Education has said that at 9 this evening, it will be providing definitive information on whether schools will be opened tomorrow. The ministry is awaiting information from NEMO and the Met Office, who will be doing an assessment. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been experiencing light showers throughout the day as forecast. At 5 p.m. today, Tropical Storm Kirk was near latitude 14.2 north, longitude 60.2 west. Maximum sustained winds were near 50 miles per hour with higher gusts. Although gradual weakening is anticipated during the next couple of days, little change in strength is expected before Kirk moves through the Lesser Antilles overnight. Kirk is moving toward the west-northwest near 14 miles per hour, and the west-northwestward to westward motion is expected over the next couple days. The center of the system is expected to pass to the north of mainland St. Vincent overnight, positioning to our northwest by early morning. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves today called on the international community to work together to combat non-communicable diseases. The Prime Minister made this call during his address at the plenary session of the third UN high-level meeting in Washington on non-communicable diseases. PM Gonsalves said that while every person is responsible for their health, Caribbean countries need international support to help combat non-communicable diseases.
We all know, all of us here, know what is required of us as individuals, families, communities, and governments. Yet, we are not working adequately together on this many-sided matter. Further, we are here asking our international partners to be more engaged with us on this vital issue. Our international partners are helping, but as always, we can do more together. So let us, all at this global gathering, reaffirm our commitment to battle efficaciously the chronic NCDs in our respective populations.
Dr. Gonsalves listed several diseases that pose a threat to our country's health sector and also mentioned the contributing factors which Caribbean people consider a culture that have to be addressed if the UN targets are to be met.
These silent killers have been deeply embedded in our history and culture in the Caribbean, owing to what we eat and drink and our habits connected thereto. We in CARICOM in 2007 proclaimed the Wellness Revolution with the war against chronic non-communicable diseases at its center. We brought the issue to the United Nations, and here we are again. All of us know the subject very well. We just have to do more.
Several countries made similar calls at the meeting today as they made presentations on the efforts they have made to address NCDs and to put forward plans for the next 3 to 5 years. This would enable them to put their countries on a path to attain the UN Sustainable Development Goals numbers 3 and 4 on NCDs and mental health. Prime Minister Gonsalves also delivered a wide-ranging address at the 73rd UN General Assembly today, where he noted the devastating effects that the global economic and financial meltdown over a decade ago have had on countries, including those in the Caribbean. He told the gathering that the adverse socio-economic impact of the crisis has been vast and far-reaching, especially for the countries least responsible for its genesis. Prime Minister Gonsalves said, regrettably, the seemingly self-evident lessons of the economic and financial catastrophe have been distorted and manipulated to disastrous effects.
While the financial architecture has been quietly reassembled with little more than ineffectual cosmetic changes, the post-crisis socio-economic and political landscape has been radically reordered. Economic difficulties have caused most of the major nations to look inward, eschewing the most noble and beneficial aspects of global cooperation. Craven demagogues, clothed in populist robes, have emerged to exploit economic hardship and fan the flames of division, hatred, and isolation. In all corners of the globe, the jarring rise of illiberal intolerance can be causally connected to the economic crisis and its continuing impact. Solidarity has been sacrificed on the altar of political expediency.
Prime Minister Gonsalves said integration, cooperation, and consensus building were also affected by the crisis, and these values are important now more than ever to help solve the global problems confronting leaders and countries.
In a technologically connected, increasingly educated, and rapidly shrinking global village, any belated attempt to place the genies of multilateralism and globalization back into their respective bottles is dangerous folly. Walls cannot replace bridges. Isolation cannot replace cooperation. And clenched fists cannot shake hands. The United Nations is not without its many systemic flaws, and the ascendancy of its unprincipled antithesis demands that we address those flaws most urgently. However, after 7 decades, the United Nations remains the only institution with the capacity and authority to enable global cooperation for our collective ennoblement.
We will have more on the Prime Minister's address to the UN General Assembly in tomorrow's newscast. SVG is expected to have an operational geothermal energy plant in about 3 years' time. However, some residents have raised concerns about the possible effects that the drilling could have on the La Soufrière volcano. Dr. Richard Robertson, director of the UWI's Seismic Research Center, responding to these fears, explained that the drilling is unlikely to affect the volcano. However, the explorers need to be mindful of the increase in the number of earthquakes in the region. Larissa Pogsley-Kidd has more.
The question of geothermal exploration and the effects it may have on La Soufrière volcano was answered by UWI's seismic director, Dr. Richard Robertson, in an interview with SVG-TV News this week. Dr. Robertson explained that the drilling will not affect the center of the magma, as the source needed for the geothermal energy is usually some distance away.
While the source of the energy is actually much deeper than that, is further away from that finger, it's all the way in the cells. So the impact that the exploration will have is very little in terms of the volcanic system itself. So it's very unlikely that sort of drilling into and tapping into this resource is going to have any effect on the chances of an eruption or not. The source of the geothermal energy is not the magma itself; is the hot rock and the liquids that rotate, that are heated by this hot magma source, and that's several kilometers away. Geothermal energy only tap into the top, probably a kilometer or so, not very far down. So it shouldn't affect it.
Dr. Robertson, however, warned that persons conducting the drilling must be aware that small tremors close to the volcano may act as triggers.
So it's not so much the impact on the volcano and the volcanic system, but localized effects on the stress fields that could cause, induced seismicity. And that's one of the things. So you tend to monitor much closely what we call micro earthquakes or small earthquakes. You tend to have a more denser network of seismic stations close to the place that you're exploring. And secondly, you will factor into your investment decisions the potential impact of volcanic eruptions on it, because you're going to develop it on a volcano like Europe. Those are the two key things that probably should be considered.
Dr. Robertson said that even though the UE Seismic Research Center was not consulted to be part of the exploration, they are aware of plans to construct the geothermal plant. He said his team is interested in the data that will come out after exploration, as they will be better informed on activity of the volcano.
We are particularly interested in some of the studies that are being done, because it provides us with information that would tell us a little bit more about the geology of the area, particularly if you're dealing with volcano. And some of the information that is collected from the investigation that is going on would be useful for us in terms of interpreting what can happen to the volcano in the future. Not specific, the information on the hazard from the volcano is out there in the public. You don't necessarily have to come to ask us. We have produced hazard maps of the volcano, so the people who are doing exploration should be well aware of the potential for eruptions and the potential areas that could be impacted.
Emira Caribbean Inc. and Reykjavik Geothermal, in association with the government of SVG, will be installing a 10-megawatt geothermal plant at the foot of La Soufrière volcano in a bid to reduce the use of fossil fuel. The geothermal power plant has the potential to serve about 60% of this country's electricity needs. Reporting for SVG-TV News, I am Larissa Pogsley-Kidd.
A National Day of Prayer will be observed here on Monday, the 1st October 2018, under the theme, With God, SVG Will Overcome. The event is being organized by the Ministry of Education, National Reconciliation and Information, in collaboration with the National Day of Prayer Committee. A release from the Agency for Public Information said that the event aims to unite the nation in prayer, and a number of activities are scheduled for the day. These include a prayer rally, workplace devotions, school devotions, prayer visits to state institutions, interactive on-air prayers via radio, social media post a prayer and a request a prayer hotline via telephone number 533-7330. The day's activities will culminate with a prayer rally at Heritage Square from 3 to 6 p.m. The police are seizing the opportunity to learn more about mental illness and interact with the patients at the Mental Health Rehabilitation Center. This as personnel at the center engaged the police today in the third session of a series of training as they continue the thrust to move mental health into primary health care and strengthen the capacity of stakeholders. Counselor at the Mental Health Rehabilitation Center, Roselle Solomon, said this phase of the training, which is conducted on Thursdays, allow for the police to meaningfully interact with patients.
So today we educated our officers on mental health, mental illness. We also engaged them with our patients. We brought patients in so that they would be able to hear their personal stories. We also went into escalation, the escalation cycle, how we're going to stabilize a situation. We talked about how they're able to assess a situation when they are on the scene and to assess the risk factors and the protective factors to make sure that not only themselves are safe, but also the mentally ill patient and those who are in close and immediate environs.
Solomon said it is important for members of the constabulary to hear the experiences of patients in order to gain a greater understanding of their daily struggles.
The thing is that stories are impacting on, how we perceive, a particular population. When you hear the stories, they all start off with what we call a normal life, but because of particular situations, because of your own biological makeup at times, it influences, your illness, and that's what we are trying to have people understand, that it's chronic, it's treatable, it's managed, and that's how support comes into play, with families and friends coming on board to make sure that people are taking their medication, they're following up with the doctor visits, helping them to gain insight into their own mental health situation.
Solomon explained that the training also serves to strengthen the collaboration between the police and the mental health center.
Not only that, we talked about the key concepts of escalation, the triggers that can offset anyone in a situation, and how to diffuse those situations with basic skills regarding language, deportment, how you stand, obviously how you speak to a person, all these different things that may trigger a situation. Not only that, the purpose today was to make sure we strengthen that collaboration among mental health services, the police, and community. Because as we have said, and we're always saying it, mental health is a shared responsibility.
Parents of at-risk children have been receiving some help so they could better guide their children to make positive decisions. This was made possible through the Student Support Services of the Ministry of Education at a one-day parenting workshop held at the Calico Town Hall yesterday, which targeted parents in the Glen Fair Hall area. Coordinator of Student Support Services, Jasmine Francois Crease, said the workshop was one of many being held to teach parents necessary skills. Crease said the parents will be equipped with positive parenting tools to make a difference in the lives of their children.
Parenting is one of those things. It's the most difficult job, but it's the one that comes without a manual. Okay? You get a simple television. We all know how to turn on the TV, but we get a whole big booklet in several languages. So what we're hoping is that this is the first step to teaching them how to parent in the right way. When you think of parenting, most persons are going to parent the way they were parented. So sometimes not necessarily using what we call positive parenting tools. So we're hoping that these parents would leave here with some additional skills, building on what they already have in order to guide them and help them to guide their children so that we can have improvement generally in the sort of behaviors that we're having.
The Student Services Coordinator said there would be a follow-up workshop with the children of the parents who attended yesterday's workshop. There are also plans to conduct similar workshops in other areas.
What we're hoping is that after this workshop, we can have a follow-up with the young people themselves, with the children, and then maybe an additional follow-up workshop with the parents and the children, so that we can tap in and continue. This workshop, though, as in Calico-based workshop, is simply one of several that we're going to be doing throughout. For example, sometime next month, we're going to be doing a workshop targeting the Otley Hall, Sharps area. We want to look at that Camden Park, Lomans, Vermont areas. So we're going to be moving. Last term we did 10 workshops throughout St. Vincent, as far as we went as far as Sandy Bay and as far leeward as Pettibone.
SVG-TV News spoke with some of the parents who shared their views on the workshop.
Oh yes, I think it is important because we have some parents who really need guidance in the way they bring up their children, the way we educate them. So I think it is important. Yeah. Well, I expect that we should be seeing more positive behavior from our children, because with whatever information that we would have been taught, we would be able to go home and carry that out, and we'll be better equipped in the way we deal with our children and then how our children deal with others.
The child always say you're not too big to learn, and it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think the parents and them should come out and just listen what they have to tell them and to raise up the child.
No, parents need to come out and shape the children, the values of life, and what it ought to be alive today is very much important. I think fathers should play a more pivotal role and come to these sessions, because I think male children especially need to add value to the sons, because these are the ones who seem to be participating more in crimes in this country at this present time. So I think more fathers should be out, so they can learn something and impart it to the kids when they go at home. Instead of allowing them to go on the block and be in the house and smoking weed and playing Nintendo. Come out and learn something and then impart it to your kids, especially male kids. It's very much important.
Our actions are our future. A Zero Hunger World is possible by 2030 is the theme to celebrate this year's World Food Day on Tuesday, October 16th. The theme chosen provides an opportunity to show the commitment of the Food and Agriculture Organization to attaining Sustainable Development Goal SDG number 2, which is to achieve zero hunger by the year 2030. The Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor says it has established a World Food Day Planning Committee under the chairmanship of Leroy Jackson to plan and coordinate activities to mark the occasion. The major activity will be an exhibition at Heritage Square in Kingstown. The ministry says the exhibition is expected to put on display the country's efforts at reducing hunger and enhancing livelihoods through various initiatives in the agricultural and rural sectors. Other activities planned include radio discussion programs that focus on the theme. World Food Day is observed by the FAO and the UN each year to commemorate the founding of the organization in 1945. Every events are organized in more than 150 countries across the world, making it one of the most celebrated days on the UN's calendar.